Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, there is a time in the stillness of the night, when the world is asleep, when the noise of life fades, and when God whispers to the hearts of those who will listen. Between 3 and 5 a.m., this is not just any hour. This is the hour of the seeker, the hour of the disciplined, the hour of transformation. While others slumber, champions rise. While the world hesitates, the faithful prepare. The Bible tells us in Mark 1:35 that Jesus himself rose early in the morning to pray. Before the demands of the day, before the pressures of life, he sought the presence of the Father. And I tell you today, my friends, if you want to break through, if you want to change your life, if you want to hear the voice of God and step into your calling, rise before the sun. Seek his wisdom, discipline your mind, and move with purpose. Because in those early hours, while the world is quiet, heaven is listening. And if you will move, if you will pray, if you will work, God will open doors no man can shut. The early morning hours between 3 and 5 a.m. hold a special power that few recognize. This is not just a time of day. It is a sacred window where the world is silent, distractions are minimal, and the soul is most open to receiving divine wisdom. Throughout history, great men and women of faith, visionaries and leaders, have understood the significance of these hours. It is in this stillness that prayers are most fervent, thoughts are most clear, and God's voice can be heard without the noise of the world drowning it out. In Mark 1:35, the Bible tells us, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place, where he prayed. Even the Son of God recognized the importance of rising before the sun, before the demands of the world, to seek the Father in solitude. If Jesus, in all his power and wisdom, saw the need to pray in the early hours, how much more do we? This is not just about waking up early. This is about aligning with divine timing. There is something supernatural about meeting God in the quiet, before the rush of life begins. The early morning is the hour of intimacy with God. It is when the spiritual realm is active, when revelation flows freely, and when burdens can be laid down without the interference of daily pressures. Many people struggle to hear God's voice, not because he is silent, but because they are too distracted. The noise of life, phones buzzing, emails piling up, schedules demanding attention, crowds out the whisper of the Holy Spirit. But in the stillness of the early morning, there are no interruptions, no urgent messages, no distractions pulling the mind away. It is just you and God, face to face, heart to heart. There's a reason why the great men of faith, from the prophets of old to modern-day spiritual leaders, have emphasized the power of seeking God in the early morning. Abraham rose early to meet with God. David said in Psalm 63:1, "O God, you are my God, early will I seek you." These men understood something that many overlook. There is a grace, a favor, a divine anointing that comes when you seek God before anything else. The early morning is the time of revelation. It is when dreams become clear, when direction is given, when the plans of the enemy are exposed, and when strategies for victory are released. Many successful people, even outside of faith, have discovered the secret of early rising. They may not all attribute it to divine connection, but they know that the mind is sharpest in the morning, creativity flows more freely, and productivity is at its highest. But for those who walk with God, it is much more than a productivity hack. It is a moment of divine encounter. It is where strength is renewed, where battles are fought in the Spirit, and where faith is stirred for the challenges ahead. Those who cultivate the habit of meeting God in the early hours develop an unshakable confidence. They walk into their day knowing they have already won in the Spirit. They do not fear the unexpected because they have already surrendered the day into God's hands. They do not struggle with uncertainty because they have already received direction. When you start your day in the presence of God, you are not reacting to life. you are leading it. You are moving with divine authority, stepping into assignments with clarity, and carrying a peace that surpasses all understanding. There is also a spiritual discipline that is developed in these early hours. Waking up before the rest of the world requires commitment. It is not easy, but neither is greatness. It requires saying no to late-night distractions, choosing discipline over comfort, and prioritizing God above sleep. But in return, it produces a strength that cannot be shaken. Those who rise early and seek God are not easily swayed by the storms of life, because their roots go deep. They are like trees planted by streams of living water, constantly nourished, constantly growing, constantly thriving. God rewards those who seek Him diligently, and there is no greater diligence than sacrificing the comfort of sleep to meet with Him. This is not about legalism, not about proving anything. It is about love, about hunger for His presence, about a desire to be transformed. It is about putting God first, not just in word, but in action. It is about saying, Lord, before I do anything else, I seek You. Before I listen to the world, I listen to You. Before I listen to the world, I listen to You. Before I listen to the world, I listen to You. Before I listen to the world, I listen to You. Before I listen to the world, I listen to You. Before I listen to the world, I listen to You. Before I listen to the world, I listen to You. There is no better time than the early morning to align yourself with heaven. When you seek God before the world wakes up, before stress sets in, before responsibilities take over, you are setting the tone for your entire day. You are positioning yourself for favor, for wisdom, for breakthrough. You are declaring that God is your priority, that His presence is your greatest need, and that His voice is the one you follow. Those who rise early to seek God do not just go through life. They lead it with power, with faith. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It is the foundation upon which success, growth, and transformation are built. The world is filled with talented people, with dreamers, with those who have potential. But without discipline, none of that will ever be realized. The difference between those who rise to greatness and those who remain stuck in mediocrity is not just talent or intelligence, it is discipline. And discipline is never convenient, never comfortable. It demands sacrifice. It demands pushing past emotions, past excuses, past the desire for comfort, and choosing commitment over feelings. The early morning hours between 3 and 5 a.m. separate those who are truly committed from those who simply wish for change. Waking up before the rest of the world is not easy. The bed is warm, the body is tired, and the mind will always find a reason to sleep longer. But discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when you do not feel like doing it. It is the ability to command yourself, to rise even when everything in you wants to stay down. Those who master this are the ones who achieve greatness. They are the ones who understand that success is not found in comfort, but in consistency. Many people wait for motivation to take action. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Some days you will feel inspired, but most days you will not. Discipline does not depend on how you feel. It is a decision, a commitment, a way of life. It says, I will do what I said I would do, no matter how I feel. That is the mindset that builds champions. That is the mindset that changes lives. It is not about having time, it is about making time. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. But how those hours are used determines the outcome of a person's life. Those who wake up early, those who sacrifice comfort for growth, those who invest in themselves before the world wakes up, these are the ones who separate themselves from the rest. The Bible speaks of discipline as a sign of wisdom and maturity. Proverbs 12:01 says, Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but whoever hates correction is stupid. Discipline is not just about working hard. It is about training yourself to do what is right even when it is difficult. It is about building habits that lead to excellence, about mastering your mind and body rather than being controlled by them. Paul the Apostle wrote in 1 Corinthians 9:27, "I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others I myself should be disqualified." Even Paul, a man full of wisdom and revelation, understood that without discipline, he could fall short of his calling. The early hours of the morning are a testing ground for discipline. While the world sleeps, you have a choice to stay comfortable or to rise. This is where strength is built, where mental toughness is forged, where habits are solidified. Success is not about what you do occasionally. It is about what you do consistently. It is about waking up early, when no one is watching, when there is no applause, when there is no immediate reward. It is about putting in the work day after day, knowing that in due time, the results will come. Jesus himself lived a life of discipline. He fasted for 40 days. He woke up early to pray. He followed the will of the Father with unwavering obedience. His life was not one of ease and comfort, but of purpose and sacrifice. If Jesus needed discipline to fulfill his mission, how much more do we? The world tempts us with distractions, with laziness, with shortcuts, but discipline refuses to be swayed. Discipline keeps you focused, keeps you strong, keeps you moving forward, even when everything around you tries to pull you back. There will always be excuses to stay in bed, to delay action, to push things off until later, but every excuse is a step further from your destiny. The greatest enemy of success is not failure, it is procrastination. It is the lie that says, "I'll do it tomorrow." But tomorrow turns into next week turns into next year, and before you know it, opportunities have passed, time has been wasted, and potential has been lost. The disciplined do not wait for the right time, they create the right time. They do not wait for the world to push them, they push themselves. Rising early is more than just a habit, it is a statement. It is a declaration that you refuse to be average, that you refuse to let life happen to you, that you are in control of your actions, your time, your destiny. The world will always have distractions, temptations, and easy roads, but those who choose discipline will always rise above. The battle is won in the small choices, in the unseen moments, in the early hours when no one else is watching. Clarity is one of the most powerful forces in life. Without it, people wander aimlessly, moving from one thing to another without real direction. When the mind is clouded with distractions, worries, and the noise of the world, it is difficult to see the path ahead. But in the early hours of the morning, before the world awakens, there is a stillness, a quietness, where clarity is found. The mind is free from interruptions, the soul is at peace, and there is space to think, to reflect, and to truly listen. Clarity is one of the most powerful forces in life. Without it, people wander aimlessly, moving from one thing to another without real direction. When the mind is clouded with distractions, worries, and the noise of the world, it is difficult to see the path ahead. But in the early hours of the morning, before the world awakens, there is a stillness, a quietness, where clarity is found. The mind is free from interruptions, the soul is at peace, and there is space to think, to reflect, and to truly listen. The greatest breakthroughs often come in moments of silence. When everything is still, when there are no emails to check, no social media notifications, no demands pulling in different directions, the mind can focus. It is in these moments that visions become clear, that ideas take shape, that problems are solved with a fresh perspective. In the rush of daily life, it is easy to get caught up in routine, to keep moving without ever stopping to ask, am I on the right path? Am I making the right decisions? Am I becoming who I am meant to be? But in the quiet hours of the morning, these questions find their answers. There is a reason why some of the greatest thinkers, leaders, and visionaries prioritize the early morning for reflection and planning. It is because they understand that clarity does not come in chaos. It comes in stillness. When the mind is overwhelmed, decisions become reactive rather than intentional. People move through life responding to problems instead of creating solutions, surviving instead of thriving. But those who take the time to be still, to listen, to gain clarity, are the ones who move with confidence. They do not waste time chasing things that do not matter. They do not allow distractions to dictate their direction. They know where they are going, and they walk with purpose. In the Bible, God often spoke to his people in moments of stillness. Elijah did not hear God in the earthquake, the wind, or the fire, but in a gentle whisper. Moses met God alone on the mountain, away from the noise of the crowd. Jesus withdrew to quiet places to pray and seek the Father's guidance. If even the Son of God needed solitude to receive clarity, how much more do we? The world is filled with voices, opinions, expectations, pressures. But the voice of truth is often found in silence. Those who discipline themselves to seek clarity in the early hours position themselves to hear God more clearly, to understand their purpose more deeply, and to walk in wisdom. The early morning is also when dreams are most vivid, when ideas are most fresh. The subconscious mind has been working through the night, and in the first moments of waking, creativity is at its peak. This is why writers, artists, and innovators often rise early to work. They know that inspiration flows more freely in the quiet before distractions set in. Clarity is not just about knowing what to do, it is about knowing why. It is about being aligned with purpose, about having a vision so strong that no obstacle can shake it. Many people struggle with indecision, constantly second-guessing themselves, hesitating at every crossroad. But clarity removes doubt. It brings a certainty that allows for bold action. It is not about having all the answers, but about knowing the next step. And when the next step is taken in confidence, the path ahead becomes clearer. This is why the discipline rise early, to seek, to reflect, to listen, to plan. They do not wait for clarity to come by chance. They create the conditions for it to appear. They understand that a scattered mind leads to a scattered life, but a focused mind leads to a life of purpose. There is also power in starting the day with intentionality. When the morning begins with clarity, the entire day is different. There is no rush, no scrambling to figure out priorities. There is a plan, a direction, a sense of control. Stress is reduced because decisions have already been made in the quiet moments before the world awakens. Instead of being pulled in every direction, there is a firm foundation, a confidence in what needs to be done. Clarity is the difference between reacting and leading, between drifting and advancing. People often seek clarity from external sources, books, mentors, advice, but the greatest clarity often comes from within. It comes in the moments of stillness, when the soul is aligned, when distractions fade, and when truth becomes evident. The answers people seek are often already within them, waiting to be discovered in the quiet. But without making space for these moments, those answers remain hidden beneath the noise of life. The early morning provides this space. It is the opportunity to pause, to think deeply, to align thoughts with purpose, and to step into the day with focus. Those who master this habit do not live by accident. They live with intention. Prayer and reflection are the pillars of a strong and purposeful life. In a world that constantly demands attention, where schedules are packed and distractions are endless, the early morning offers a sacred opportunity to connect with God, to align the heart with His will, and to strengthen the spirit before the pressures of the day take hold. When the world is asleep, when everything is still, when the mind is not yet bombarded with worries, that is the moment when the soul is most receptive, most open to hearing God's voice. Jesus himself set the example of seeking God before anything else. Mark 1:35 says, "Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed." He did not wait until the day was halfway over, nor did he allow the demands of the crowds to dictate his schedule. He rose early, found a quiet place, and spent time with the Father. This was not a burden to him, but a necessity. If Jesus, the Son of God, needed this time of communion with the Father, how much more do we? Prayer is not a ritual. It is a lifeline. It is where strength is renewed, where direction is received, where battles are fought and won. Life is filled with uncertainties, with decisions that need to be made, with challenges that must be faced. Without prayer, without seeking God's wisdom, people rely solely on their own understanding, which is limited and flawed. Proverbs 3:05-6 instructs, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight." The early morning is the perfect time to surrender, to ask for guidance, to seek divine wisdom before making choices that will affect the rest of the day. When the first moments of the day are spent in prayer, every other moment is impacted by that connection with God. Reflection is just as important as prayer. It is the practice of looking inward, of examining the heart, of assessing where one stands in faith, in purpose, in personal growth. Psalm 139 verse 20 says, "Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." Too often, people move through life without pausing to reflect, without considering if they are truly growing, truly becoming who God has called them to be. Reflection in the early morning allows for honesty, for repentance, for a renewed commitment to walking in righteousness. The world moves fast, and if a person is not careful, they can be swept up in the current, going through the motions without ever stopping to ask, am I on the right path? Am I making decisions that align with God's will? Am I living in obedience or just following my own desires? The early morning is the time to slow down, to ask these questions, to seek clarity, to allow God to reveal areas that need change. It is in these quiet moments that the deepest growth takes place. Many people struggle with stress, anxiety, and worry. Their minds are constantly racing, their hearts are heavy with burdens. But Philippians 4:6-7 reminds us, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." The early morning is the time to lay down every worry, every fear, every doubt at the feet of God. It is the time to trade anxiety for peace, confusion for clarity, weakness for strength. Those who start their day in prayer do not carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. They walk with the confidence that God is in control. Prayer is not just about asking for things. It is about aligning with God's heart. It is about listening as much as speaking, about being still and allowing Him to speak. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." In the stillness of the early morning, there is a greater awareness of His presence. There is a closeness, a communion, a peace that cannot be found in the busyness of the day. Those who seek Him early experience His presence in a way that carries them through every challenge they face. The discipline of morning prayer and reflection builds a foundation of faith that cannot be easily shaken. It strengthens trust in God, develops spiritual maturity, and fosters a deep, unbreakable relationship with Him. The most powerful people in the kingdom of God are not the ones who rely on their own strength, but the ones who spend time in His presence, who seek Him daily, who begin each morning with a heart surrendered to His will. When prayer and reflection become a priority, life is no longer lived in uncertainty, but with confidence, purpose, and divine direction. Consistency is the key that unlocks transformation. Many people start with enthusiasm, filled with excitement and motivation, but as time passes, they fade. They begin with high hopes, with bold declarations of change, but when the challenges come, when the excitement wears off, they fall back into old habits. Success is never about a single moment of inspiration. It is about daily commitment. It is about showing up, putting in the work, staying faithful to the process, even when results are not immediate. The early morning hours test consistency in the purest way. There is no crowd watching, no applause, no external validation. Just the quiet decision to rise, to commit, to do what needs to be done. The greatest achievements in history were not accomplished overnight. They were the result of years of dedication, of small daily disciplines, of an unwavering commitment to a vision. The athlete who stands on the podium, the entrepreneur who builds an empire, the believer who walks in unwavering faith, all of them have one thing in common: consistency. They did not allow emotions to dictate their actions. They did not allow temporary failures to stop them. They made a decision to stay the course, to keep moving forward, to remain steadfast even when nothing seemed to change. The Bible speaks often of the power of perseverance. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." This is the principle of consistency. Those who remain faithful will see the fruit of their labor. The problem is that many give up too soon. They plant seeds but do not wait for the harvest. They pray but stop before the breakthrough. They start with passion but let discouragement rob them of their commitment. The early morning is a test of whether a person is truly committed or just interested. The interested will hit the snooze button. The committed will rise. The interested will find excuses. The committed will find a way. Every great leader, every successful individual, every person who has left a lasting impact on this world has built their life on consistency. It is easy to be motivated for a day, to push hard for a week, but true transformation happens in the daily grind, in the moments when no one is watching. Consistency does not mean perfection. There will be days of struggle, days of failure, days when everything feels like it is falling apart. But those who are consistent do not let those moments define them. They get up, they keep going, they stay the course. Proverbs 24:16 says, "Though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again." Consistency is not about never falling. It is about always rising. One of the greatest traps in life is the pursuit of quick results. People want success, but they do not want the process. They want strength, but they do not want to endure hardship. They want breakthroughs, but they do not want to wait. True success, true growth, true transformation comes only to those who are willing to show up every single day, regardless of how they feel, regardless of how long it takes. The early morning is the training ground for this kind of discipline. It is where habits are formed, where endurance is developed, where a person proves to themselves that they have what it takes to keep going. Jesus himself modeled consistency. He did not perform miracles one day and disappear the next. He walked in his calling every single day. He prayed consistently, taught consistently, loved consistently, and remained obedient to the Father even when faced with the ultimate test. His life was not built on moments of passion, but on a foundation of unwavering commitment. Those who follow him are called to the same level of faithfulness, to a life that is not dictated by feelings, but by purpose. People often look at those who succeed and assume they have some special talent, some advantage that others do not. But the truth is, the difference between those who succeed and those who do not is almost always consistency. It is the ability to keep going when most would quit. It is the decision to build daily habits that compound over time. It is the understanding that true change is not an event but a process. When a person commits to consistency, their entire life changes. They do not need to rely on willpower or motivation. They rely on discipline. They do not need to chase after success. Success becomes a natural byproduct of their daily actions. There will always be reasons to delay, to quit, to give less than one's best. But those who choose consistency refuse to entertain those thoughts. They understand that greatness is not found in a single moment, but in a lifetime of commitment. They do not wait for the perfect time to start, they start now. They do not wait for things to get easier, they push through the difficulty. They do not allow setbacks to stop them, they use them as fuel to keep going. The early morning hours are where this battle is won, where the foundation of consistency is built, where a person proves to themselves that they are truly committed to their purpose. A life of purpose, strength, and divine direction is not built in moments of convenience, but in moments of commitment. The early morning hours are a sacred time, a time when clarity is found, when discipline is tested, when prayer deepens, and when consistency is proven. Those who rise before the world awakens are the ones who take control of their lives instead of being controlled by circumstances. They are the ones who do not wait for change but create it, who do not wish for success but work for it, who do not hope for purpose but walk in it. Every great leader, every faithful servant of God, every person who has left an impact on this world has understood the power of these quiet moments. They have chosen to prioritize clarity over confusion, discipline over comfort, prayer over distraction, and consistency over fleeting motivation. The difference between an average life and a life of greatness is found in these daily choices, in the unseen moments of sacrifice, in the quiet hours before the world begins to pull in 100 directions. God is calling His people to rise, to take their place, to walk in strength and purpose. He does not desire lives filled with hesitation, distraction, and wasted potential. He has given a spirit of power, of love, of self-discipline, and it is in the early morning that these gifts are strengthened. Those who seek Him in the stillness will find Him. Those who train their minds and bodies in discipline will reap the rewards of their efforts. Those who stay consistent will see the fruits of their labor in ways they never imagined. It is in the unseen moments that true transformation happens. It is in the daily discipline that success is built. It is in the commitment to prayer that divine wisdom is received. The early morning is where battles are won, where faith is fortified, where lives are changed. Those who commit to this path will not only see the difference in their own lives, but will become a light to those around them. They will walk with purpose, with confidence, with the undeniable power of a life lived intentionally, and that is the life that changes the world.